I'd like to ask the secretary to call the roll.
Ms. Hightower?
Here.
Mr. Graven?
Here.
Mr. Johnson? Ms. Kelly?
Here.
Ms. Garrett?
Here.
Mr. Mannix?
Here.
Mr. Russell?
Here.
Mr. Burke?
You can't speak, so what is
And
that?
Ms. Dragonetti?
She said she couldn't.
We have a quorum.
Okay. And we have an agenda. Could I have a motion for the approval of the agenda as submitted?
So move.
Second. Thank you. That's Ms. Garrett. And we have a second by Sal. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Carried. Minutes of the meeting of the 18th were submitted with your materials. Can I have a motion for discussion purposes that the minutes be approved as submitted?
Oh, sorry. You're slow, Pat.
Okay, Pat, appreciate that.
I'll second it.
Pat Russell makes motion and a second by Ms. Garrett. Have any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Carried. At this point in our agenda, we are open for public comment. Do we have anyone here from the public who wishes to make comment at this time? Okay. All right, we'll move into action items. And the first action item that we have is a resolution, and this resolution was adopted by the council in February, or will be adopted. Excuse me. I will read the resolution to be presented to the council. A resolution recognizing Ms. Jessica Fallis, an outstanding service as a member of the College Council of SUNY Plattsburgh. Whereas Jessica Fallis, president of the Student Association of State University of New York College of Plattsburgh, vacated her position effective with the end of her term on December 31st, 2018. Whereas as the leader of the student government for the 2018 calendar year, Ms. Fallis provided important representation for all SUNY Plattsburgh students as their reliable, effective advocate during her term as a member of the College Council. And whereas Ms. Fallis performed her duties admirably, consistently exhibiting wisdom and maturity in articulating the concerns of her fellow students to the council. Now therefore be it resolved that the College Council of the State University of New York at Plattsburgh allows Ms. Jessica Fallis, in recognition of her ability to lead the SUNY Plattsburgh student body, and express its gratitude for having had the benefit of her energy, efforts, and enthusiasm on behalf of her constituents. And be it further resolved that the College Council wishes Ms. Fallis an abundance of health, happiness, and future success in her endeavors. Okay. And that resolution is submitted on behalf of all 5 members in attendance here at the College Council. So we'll submit it as the motion made by all five members. And we'll take a vote on that. So all those wishing to approve the resolution as submitted signify by aye.
Aye.
Any who wish to vote negative? Okay, so it's approved unanimously. Okay, Jessica, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Well, again, congratulations, and we have a copy of that resolution for you. What's the best way for us to get this to you?
Probably mail it to me.
Would
Would that be an option? Unless someone's driving down to Albany anytime soon.
Well, we will. Okay. It will be mailed to you promptly. Okay. And
Sounds good.
Thank you
very
again for all that you did in your term. Okay.
Thank you. I really enjoyed working with you all, and best of luck this upcoming semester.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you, Jessica. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, next order of business is an update on the searches. I will offer a few comments. I will tell you we're very pleased with the work of the consultants that we retained. We had 110 responses to the search. They culled that down to, I think it was 64. Don't hold me to that. Pardon?
You mean in the top two?
Yeah. And then they provided a second tier of applicants. We have, all that I can say is I couldn't have been happier with the depth and breadth of the pool that was created. And we're in a process of working that. There'll be a meeting tomorrow. And while it was not part of the requirements for the consultants that they be here for a meeting that we have with our search committee tomorrow. They're driving up from Pennsylvania to meet with us tomorrow as we.
No, they're not.
Oh, no, they're not. Oh, they must have.
Well, unless they leave early.
They're
They're already on the way. Okay.
I'm sorry?
All things are being canceled tomorrow. We cancel the hockey game tomorrow. There's bad weather coming.
Okay.
We did.
Yeah, we did. We
Yeah.
canceled the women's hockey. Middlebury called and said, we can't get there tomorrow. So we said, okay, and pushed it back a week.
Yeah.
Don't want the bus going off the road.
See, I was hoping they had seen the weather forecast.
Want to be stranded somewhere. Yeah.
Anyway. So will we be doing a meeting tomorrow?
I think we'll get through the day tomorrow. We're not going to cancel classes tomorrow. It's going to start tomorrow evening.
The meeting's at 11 tomorrow.
Yeah, that's
So it's
fine.
11 to
We'll have a
1.
full day tomorrow.
And
That's-
the RPA team is already on the way
Oh,
here.
okay.
So they'll get here, they'll just get
They may
started.
stay a couple of days.
So I don't need to, I don't need to eat my words. They are coming. And even, you know,
So we're gonna narrow.
yeah, we're gonna pare that pool down to 12. And these will be 12 that will then be interviewed. And those interviews will take place in Albany. Not this coming weekend, but the following weekend. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And that'll be a marathon. Those are,
We're driving home Sunday night.
Sunday, yeah. We'll be done at 5 on Sunday.
Yeah. And you're guaranteeing the
Oh,
weather
yeah.
through the mountains.
Oh, yeah, there'll be a big storm.
Thank you.
guaranteeing it.
If Heidi and I are traveling, it's not going to be good.
Well, you don't have to go to Malone or, you know.
That doesn't matter. You've got to go up the Northway through the high peaks. There's the issue. The rest of it's a piece of cake.
You gotta, you know, look on the bright side.
It's just weather.
I am.
May's not that far away.
Let's hope.
Hardest.
Campus reviews. First 2 weeks.
And when we've done those interviews, we will whittle that group down to a lesser number. And then there will be campus interviews, and that'll be the first week of March.
There's 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
There's 2 weeks, yeah, 2 weeks.
Five.
And when we started this, we knew we were on a really tight schedule. And we've been able to hold to that schedule even with some pressures that we thought were going to break us at along the way, but they didn't. Anyway, we continue to stay on schedule, and we'll do everything we can do to stay on schedule, because we have very little control over the back end of that schedule, because that's driven by when the SUNY trustees meet, and they will, I mean, our job is to give them, to send them candidates, and if we're not able to do that and to put those candidates in front of them at a scheduled meeting, everything gets thrown further back, and we could lose candidates if in fact that were to happen. So it's vital for us to hold to our schedule. So anyway,
You send 3 to the board? And targeting one
three
meeting?
with, and we actually have 2 alternates, only because, you know,
Yeah.
we don't know.
You send 3 to the chancellor.
Yeah.
She sends 1 to the board.
Gotcha. There you go.
I'm shooting for the May 7, 8 board. That's why there's no slippage allowed. They need 6 weeks to conduct their work.
Is there administrative work on the chancellor's end?
Yes.
There is.
She'll want to meet with each of the 3. She
Right.
may well want her senior leadership team too, which is tough, because a lot of them are in New York City, not in all.
Sure.
So it may mean more than one trip for a candidate. I would say that, well, 15 years ago, there was over 2 months between when I interviewed and when I was actually approved. If that happens again, it's going to be
Do you have a hard departure date, John?
supposed to be out of the house at some point. June 30th is my last day on payroll. This is tight. Because there's several other searches. This isn't the only search in Singapore. There's several others. And she's the appointing authority on all of them.
So the best we can do is stick to our schedule that we agreed to with SUNY, do our
Absolutely.
work, get it to
And she
them
realizes
on
what the
time.
pressure is.
I do know that they blocked out dates and times for her to conduct her interviews. So 'cause she has a very intense schedule, just traveling all the time.
Right.
So at least we know those times have been blocked out.
That's good.
And it continues to amaze me how we come up against obstacles, and at the last minute they fall away. You know, we were, as of today, we had 5 people who had not responded to a questionnaire, and that was going to have an impact upon, well, how many people are we really going to be looking at when we meet tomorrow? And today, apparently the postman arrives with they all woke up and it got their emails in or whatever. But anyway, there were.
And just a quick comment on that part of the search process. SUNY has indicated to us that RPA is the only search firm that they've come in contact with that does this extra step. So basically, the search committee narrowed the pool down to 20, and then RPA conducts intensive interviews with that 20 by video, and they have to complete a questionnaire, and they have to also put forward questions that they would ask Plattsburgh that they would need more info on. And all that information is then put up on the 23 candidates for the search committee to review. And so, I mean, that's just a goldmine of information that if you can imagine going into committee meetings and narrowing a pool down to 12 just based on a CV and resume, CV and cover letter. So this is really exciting. It's been a nail biter waiting for the information to come back in, but SUNY's remarked that they are considering adding this step in the process into their policy as a requirement because they see it as so valuable. So I share it because I want people to feel really confident that we have a great search firm.
The only comment I would make is that doing so, what we have found at the end of both these is the information is not coming quickly enough. We've got a deadline, and you're like a kid up at 2 o'clock in the morning reading, going, you kidding? You don't give it enough time, I don't think. If there was a situation where it wouldn't be such a time crunch, and I understand our time crunch, but that would be my comment. It's like we got information last night at whatever hour that was.
From the candidates?
Correct.
Yeah, the last 5
Yeah.
But
But
the rest were all
it is nice to be able to make that decision, to make our decision with additional information. Otherwise, it's all the
Absolutely.
same information that we looked at to pare it down to 20. So it is nice to have more and different kinds of things that can be telling too. So I was glad to have it, but yeah.
It's particularly
I think
people
that-
who are
I-
working full
I think
time.
In part, some of that is the process as our circumstances have had to set.
Right, that's what I just said. We're under a time crunch, so, but ideally, it's not good. When you're reading 55 of them, one right after another, by the time you get to the 55th, it's a little rough.
It was very interesting to read of what's gone on. I mean, some people, I was reading what went on with UVM, where I guess they were looking at 7 that they wanted to invite to campus, and they only had 1 that would agree to come to campus to
I
have
saw
meetings,
that. Yeah.
to have meetings with faculty and students. And it was like, to me, that was bizarre. I mean, who would apply for a position like that and not expect to have to go to campus and meet with faculty and students? But nevertheless, that happened.
And there are other schools like the University of Minnesota, and it's to avoid embarrassing candidates who are unsuccessful and weakening them at their home institutions. And so people will not apply if they're afraid that their names are going to be made public. Most states have varying degrees of open meetings and open records laws. So say, for example, the last 2 searches of the University of Minnesota, they've gone right to one person and appointed him without saying anything to the papers. And the papers get mad, but then all those other people who wouldn't have been appointed still have reasonable credibility on their home campus, and that's the point.
Interesting.
Both University of California and California State Universities, all presidential searches are all 100% closed searches. It's been that way for years.
Because it destroys or at least weakens the careers of people when the word gets around on the campus that they're looking for another job.
I have more information than I ever have on any presidential appointment.
So that's where we are.
Interesting.
Dr. Ortiz-Weathers?
Yes,
Is there any
update
comments
on
on-
the Vice President for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and I suppose we're in the same good company because our folks are doing a similar process. So we're working with Cockerham Associates, and we only had a total of 28 candidates apply. So obviously, a lot more interest for presidents than VP DEI. But I will say this is a new sort of realm and a new sort of position. And it's telling based on the materials that have been submitted by the candidates. Folks are coming from all sorts of backgrounds with very non-traditional experiences for vice presidential levels. But this is the space that we're in for this newer area. And also, I think that the number is lower because there is such high demand for this role. So every college is trying to do the same thing, and university. We met with the committee on the 29th of last month to evaluate those candidates, the required criteria. Based on that, we are moving forward 13 candidates, and those 13 candidates will also be interviewed by Cockerham Associates, and that information will then come back to us. They will also be doing reference checks, I believe, at this early stage with those 13 folks. So this will be very similar to the presidential search. We'll have not just the CV and cover letter, but we'll have some actual answers to questions that the firm will ask them. I don't think we have some kind of a survey that's doing, but it's still additional information we'll have to base our judgments on. Then we'll reconvene the committee. We plan to invite about 8 candidates for the airport, or what are known as mutual interviews. And those will be conducted off-site March 9th and 10th. And our hope is to be able to bring in 3 finalists for campus interviews between the 1st and 2nd week of April. I would say so far the committee's worked really well together. Folks have very good insight, very good input, and there was a lot of consensus around those 13 candidates. So that was good to know. Obviously, those 13 candidates vary in their strength, but it's good to see that we have enough consensus on that. So that's where we are, and I think we're moving along well, and I think it's a good thing to have this individual being interviewed a little later than presidential candidates, because by then they'll have that knowledge of who potentially their boss might be. I think that'll be a crucial piece of this. Although our firm said that they haven't gotten much around that, so that's interesting from the candidates. There wasn't many questions or concerns about a president not having been appointed, so that's good.
Very interesting candidate pool, I would say, from those who were in sort of the diversity realm from an administrative standpoint to those who may be on a teaching standpoint. But I agree. I mean, certainly a strong demand, which is probably why we don't have a large candidate pool. And I also maybe suggest that a position like this is probably something that's new too, within the last, take your guess, but I would say within 5 years or so, So, so I think we're still sort of going through the growing pains of whom is sort of credentialed and has the strength to take this on, and then weeding out those who might not.
We've seen folks who have a law background, so lawyers are applying for this.
Yes, yeah, lawyers. Lawyers and non-teaching. I mean, teaching in the sense of like law school teaching, but certainly not teaching in the undergraduate and graduate realms.
Council committee reports. Academic affairs, Dr. Hill.
Yep, there are a number of things happening in academic affairs that I'll report on. First, from the branch campus. The branch campus is hosting a SUNY undergraduate research conference in collaboration with SUNY Adirondack on April 26th. The keynote speaker is going to be the SUNY Provost Todd Lorson. So that'll be an interesting and exciting conference. Very informative. Dean Steve Dana at the branch campus has submitted a $2 million NSF grant proposal for a STEM project that will incorporate science and technology disciplines and target K-12 in-service teachers for educating them around current STEM and future STEM initiatives. And Steve is also collaborating with the local BOCES and school districts to address the need for talented certified school building and district administrators. The title of that particular project is Pathways to Leadership, and it will be designed along the lines of a mentoring model. I've asked Dean Rowena Ortiz-Walters to talk about what's happening in SBE.
No, okay. So a couple of things that came up recently. We've been doing really well on the online accounting program in terms of enrollment. We do have our first cohort graduating this May, if you can believe that. So that'll be exciting. We've gotten a slew of rankings for the program. The one that I did want to mention is successfulstudent.org. They've ranked the online accounting program first in the state of New York and 11th nationwide for best online bachelor's in accounting degree programs. And then our overall accounting program, which includes the online, was ranked 16th nationally on study.com's top 50 accounting schools. So I think what's important to highlight here is that when you have something that starts to create a buzz, it sort of takes on a life of its own. This actually has also spurred people probably looking at us and As a result, we also have now the hospitality management program was ranked. Best hospitality management colleges for the money for 2019. They were ranked first in the state of New York, above Cornell, and 12 nationally out of 111 colleges and universities. Again, this is best hospitality management programs for the money, for the value. So that is, I think, a really important accomplishment for the SBE faculty. The other thing that I just wanted to mention was our Master's of Science and Data Analytics program. Their first cohort will also actually be graduating this May, which is really awesome because when I started, we didn't have a master's program, and that is by far an exceptional accomplishment for the SBE faculty. For summer, we have a summer admissions deadline. It was set up that way, and so far we have 19 applications, 10 of which are from international students. So that's exciting. And then the last thing I'll say is we've been developing a strong relationship with an IBM alum who's the worldwide talent manager for IBM Security. And we've been taking students down to Boston and doing cyber challenges. It's great because there's a mix of female students and male students, students from SBE, students from arts and sciences, computer security, and 3 of those students have received offers from IBM. So they've been down there, they've been interacting with the directors, the folks that are making the decision to hire. And these happen to all be students who were either interns or directors for our Center for Cybersecurity and Technology. Good things going on.
A lot of great stuff in SBE, but wait, there's more. In Library and Information Technology Services, Dean Holly Hill Ross.
Thank you. I have a list of things that I wanted to highlight. We're doing a search now for a position that was reallocated within the campus for an online learning support specialist. We're adding to the online support office so that we can better facilitate students and faculty who are trying to recruit, look at retention, get information out to online students. We think that this is a good way to support the campus overall. Winter saw a lot of software upgrades on campus, a lot of minor software upgrades. Rolling out of Windows 10 across campus continues, rolling out multi-factor authentication across campus continues. We also upgraded the Banner student information system from Banner 8 to Banner 9. That's really been a 2-year process across all of SUNY. We upgraded our Linnell eLock system main servers. The eLock system is not deployed across the entire campus, but where it is deployed, it provides a measure of safety and security and access control. We also updated the ImageNow document imaging storage software over the winter break. So those are important upgrades. We're continuing to roll out our project service management software, ServiceNow. We're in the final stages of getting ready to roll out a customer-focused service portal. And the whole point of that is, let's say you want to onboard a new staff member. You don't need to know the 5 people you have to go talk to. You can pick from a service menu. I have a new staff member coming. Okay, they're going to need a telephone. They're going to need a computer. What software do they need? What's their office going to be? What roles do they need to have in the sensitive databases? And so to try to simplify things for people so they don't have to guess. That's our plan. 3 more things. We launched a community building conversation event called Popcorn Thursday, where we give free popcorn to the campus and encourage people to come, take a little study break, hang out in the library lobby. This is an idea that I borrowed from medical school in Florida that's been doing this for about 8 years, and people love it. So this week we are celebrating Valentine's Day with red colored popcorn and make your own Valentine event. Yes, I know, it's going to be great. Please come. Freiburg Library is contributing to the campus teach-in that's coming up with a panel on social justice and inclusion, resources that the library has. So I'm excited about that. And then we are continuing to take steps around campus information security. We have renewed our breach insurance application. I'm assuming we'll still get our insurance will pass. We've re-signed up with the SUNY Cybersecurity Information Center, so we get a lot of alerts from them. We get free use of certain software from them. We get expertise consultants from them. We are continuing to roll out the multi-factor authentication for sign-in and engaging in more of an awareness campaign for both telephone and email scams, which our campus is a target like every other place. Not just people looking, to hack into our health or student information or financial databases. They're trying to scam people out of simple things like convincing them to go out and buy an iTunes gift card and send it off to someone, or students helping another student pay their bill, or scam a student into giving up their refund, information. So it's a really tough world out there. We're doing what we can. That's it. Thanks.
From Arts and Sciences, Dean Buster.
Well, there's a lot going on in arts and sciences, and I don't want to drown you, so I picked out just a couple of things that you might not have heard of. One's in the chemistry department. Professors Rajesh Sunasi and Karina Kless are in the first year of a $330,000 grant from the National Science Foundation. The title of the grant, and I wrote this down, is Development of Novel Surface-Modified Cellulose Nanocrystals for Biomedical Application as Vaccine Adjuvants. Now, that is as simple as it sounds. Basically, it involves looking at a certain kind of cellulose crystals, which may be a new pathway for safer vaccines, which Rajesh and Karina have been working on for a number of years. Part of what's great about this particular grant is that it includes a lot of funding for students to be involved in the research, not just in the academic year, but as paid research assistants over the summer. This is giving students the opportunity to learn advanced research techniques that college students rarely get to study. Last year, 4 of Rajesh and Karina's students were accepted into top PhD programs, so it's really carrying through in the kind of opportunities they can have. Biology is also trying to get students involved more in research, not just at the advanced level, but through the curriculum. The great thing about research, of course, is that it gives students a better sense of what's important in the field. If they're not just memorizing a bunch of terms, but they're actually involved in discovering something new, it really energizes them. So over the Christmas break, we learned that the department's proposal has been accepted to join a big collaborative research program funded by the Howard Hughes Foundation. It's called the SEA Phages program, and it brings together undergraduate institutions to study a class of organism called bacterial phages. I'm sure you know what that is as well as I do. It's, I tell people I'm an anthropologist and I'm comfortable with technology at the level of stone tools. And above that, it's a little hard.
Bacteria. They're very cool.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, starting next year, our students in introductory classes, Bio 101 and Bio 102, will have research on this project integrated right into their labs. They're going to be identifying, doing genome sequencing, and producing scanning electron microscope images of these organisms. Now, I want to stress that this is real original research. This is not just a student exercise. Our plan is to extend this through our biology program so that all of our students are going to have a chance to engage in research all the way through the curriculum. Very briefly, exciting things are also underway in Earth Environmental Sciences. I asked them for an update and they sent me 3 pages. I will just mention one thing is that all three of our geology programs have been certified by New York State as licensing compliant. Licensing compliant, again, another exciting word, but it's a little more exciting than it sounds. 2 years ago, New York State began requiring that all geologists in the state have professional licensure. And getting that license is a pretty complicated thing to do unless you graduate from a licensed certifying program, of which there are 4 in New York, one of which is us. That says great things about the depth and quality of our geology program, of course, but also offers a real advantage for recruiting students because If you want to be a professional geologist, which an increasing number of students do, SUNY Plattsburgh is going to be one of the best degrees you can get for that. Finally, so I don't focus completely on the sciences, I'd like to mention that we're in the final stages of our search for a new director for the Plattsburgh State Art Museum, where we interviewed 3 really excellent candidates over the winter break, and we're hoping to be making an offer to one of them in the next week or so. The museum has been very active this year under interim director Karen Blau, who's a professor of art history and graciously stepped in when C.L. Esposito fell ill. The museum has greatly increased, among other things, its community engagement activities, trying to get people in the area involved in art and art education. Over the summer, for example, our museum educator, Christine Elliott, ran a number of children's art classes of Plattsburgh Farmers Market, which got a huge response. And she's worked very hard building up activities for our docents program and other things. We're also getting our on-campus exhibitions back on track after a lot of construction-related closures. As you may have seen, the Rockwell Kent Gallery reopened this fall after being closed for the podium construction, and we're hoping to have the Winkle Sculpture Court reopened once the new roof is completed this spring. We have a new show by the Montreal artist Patrice Charbonneau opening this month in the Burke Gallery. There, I think, is a reception on that today. And has it already been?
They had a gallery talk and a lunch.
Oh,
It was very well attended.
yes. And there will be another reception on that, an open reception in a couple of weeks in February. So I encourage you. It's Charbonneau's first show, and it's very exciting. So just a few minutes.
Just a few things happening in the School of Education, Health and Human Services, my hometown. SUNY Plattsburgh's teacher ed programs are partnering with Bank Street College, sister SUNY campuses and North Country Teacher Resource Center, the Master Teacher Program across New York State, and Beekman Town School District on a 5-year residency grant. The proposal for the project is non-competitive. The United States Department of Education has requested the proposal from us and that it be submitted directly to Secretary DeVos. I think that's how you pronounce that. And as support from our local Congresswoman Elise Stefanik. If awarded, SUNY Plattsburgh and its local partners will receive over $1 million over the course of the next 5 years. Ed Leadership Program is initiating a leadership cohort in the Malone and Plattsburgh areas and partnering with SUNY Potsdam to offer the coursework and certification. We're going to have an initial meeting with SUNY Adirondack in the next few weeks regarding the possibility of a human development and family relations program at the branch campus. And faculty and undergraduate students from the sport and wellness program will be participating in a national research competition in March. Last fall, they won the New York State competition and beat out such schools as Columbia and New York University Medical Schools. So a lot happening in academic affairs.
Very good. Okay. Administration and Finance, Mr. Russell.
The student budget provided $1.9 million, and that could be $1 million to $1.7 million to one-time cash contribution to SUNY Plattsburgh. With enrollments higher than budget and revenue projections indicating that the college will be approximately $1 million more than, that's great news. And the college reduced expenditures by $2.1 million. And the program is intended to, new professional employees are on board. And the program is intended to increase retention of employees. So, anything else?
To go after academic affairs. We're here to support you. So hence, we've assisted in all of that work that we've listened to from all of the deans and programs.
Has SUNY Plattsburgh ever gone or utilized the resources of the New York State Lean Office? Do you know what that office is? Have you heard of it before?
New York State lean office.
Yeah.
Lean building.
So like lean as far as like process and improvements, business efficiency.
Lean Sigma.
Lean Sigma, exactly.
I don't know necessarily about this office. I haven't heard of it.
So they initiate projects, and so it just got me thinking. So as Dean Heller had suggested, there's, well, what this does, I should say, is, and I'm going to use an example that she cited, is if you're onboarding a new employee, for instance, right, there should be a process and a checklist by which every administrative department, whether phone, internet, whatever, there's a checklist so that there is a constant motion to get this person set up, right? So what Lean does is it allows you to evaluate sort of your process.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Oh,
with
sure.
Lean.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not familiar with the New York State.
Yeah. So
Lean
there is
department.
a
Free services. That would be great.
They are free. They are free.
Yeah.
And as an institution as big as the college, I think it would behoove itself to sort of look into some sort of projects that, I'll warn you, because I did it at my job, it does take a little bit of time, but it is eye-opening in the waste that can be cut down and the savings in both time and resources that can bring once a project goes, is completed.
Right. So I haven't been here very long. We haven't met. I'm Joseph Rochelle. I'm in my second year. So one of the other notes that appropriately Pat skipped is Administration and Finance Strategic Planning Initiative that we embarked on last year, where we identified a number of goals and action items, and we just redid it again this year with the focus of 4 teams on process improvement and improving the administrative, I'll call it, experience of all of the faculty, staff, and students that we support. A couple of initiatives that are in the final testing is an online travel routing form, for example. Everything was on paper. We had 5 different versions of it. It wasn't even a fillable PDF. We've worked very diligently with LITS to develop this online platform that will provide for more efficient processing of the services, so people don't have to bring something around all over the place. And so we're going to be implementing a new work order system for maintenance and operations, leveraging SUNY and being part of, well, actually the first college that's going to go live on this new very large process. We are, so we're continuing to do some of those.
Mm-hmm.
They're all within the same guise and of lean process improvement. They're just infant stages. I mean, they're an infant processes.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot to just improve, especially on the financial side of the house for the college, before we can even, embrace a much larger evaluation. We just need to come out of the Stone Age.
Right. And one good, the great.
So I don't want to get stuck with the lean process improvement being so right. So
what's great about this office is that, again, it's a New York State office. It is free because the goal is to improve processes and of agencies of which SUNY is a state agency. And I think it really, if there's ever a time where if someone is feeling like a pain point in getting something past the goal line, then that, I think, is if you're feeling a pain point, then there's a chance to improve process somewhere, and this lean system is a tool for that.
Thanks for informing me of this free service.
You're welcome. And they work with the New York State ITS, agency as well. So if you need to ever build in sort of automation or something, there is also that technical support group.
How do you get on their, project list? I'm sure they have.
For the lean office?
Yeah.
Do
you have a particular contact you would recommend?
I'll email you.
Next up would be Community Government Relations. Ken.
John could not be here today. Normally he's up there on the video from Florida, but so I say a few different things. The budget, state budget was mentioned. We've extended invitations to Assemblyman Billy Jones and Senator Betty Little to come to campus. Typically do that in the budget season, and so they're working on their schedules for that. We would share with them the college's priorities and needs so they're aware and answer any questions that they have, and so we typically do that. So we do that in the next month or so, depending upon their schedules. Locally, Brian Hartman, Pat Rasco, and I met with two members of the Plattsburgh City Common Council. At a recent meeting, there had been questions raised about a local student housing property that's on Court Street. And so at the request of Peter Enzel, who's also a professor here, we met and shared with them a commission that was organized in 2007, town gown sort of thing that had recommendations, many of which had been adopted by the college, some of which had not been adopted by the city. So that was informative to them, and they were really appreciative of that. And I expect we'll be reaching back out to them at some point, but that was a good meeting. There's a SUNY DC Day coming up in Washington. I'll be attending that in April, meeting with staff and stuff. It's a SUNY thing, and so we typically send something for that. The last thing I wanted to mention was at the last meeting that we had here, I had mentioned a community coalition that we've been involved with United Way in talking, listening, and inclusion in the North Country. And that group has continued to meet monthly, and we actually have a meeting tomorrow. And that group will be working with Professor Michelle Ouellette's class and to have some community gatherings and put that together. So it's been a very good process. It involves elected officials, other community leaders, and so real proud of that. That's okay.
Facilities.
Okay. Well, the Center for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, the former Multicultural Center, construction has been completed, and I guess it was open at the start of the spring semester. Inside that are the Title IX office, as well as a student space called the Hub, which stands for Honoring Unity Building. So space is for students to come together. Roof work on Sibley Hall has been completed, except for the fascia and soffit panel installation that will begin today, and is expected it will be done by May. And new lighting and ceiling tiles within the building are also being installed. And then there are some residential housing projects. Whiteface Hall is being completely renovated and will open hopefully in the fall of 2019.
No, it will.
It will, okay. Hopefully it will. Ken Hall renovation is in the design phase, and construction will begin over the summer. Mason Hall bathroom renovation, there's a lot of bathroom renovations going on all over campus. That renovation is complete, and the contractor is completing the punch list items. And then the Combe Hall renovation was completed prior to the fall term, and again, punch list items are being completed at this point. So, and I guess the College Center bathroom is almost complete also, sort of.
At least the first floor main one. They're almost.
Getting there.
And then they'll move to the stairs.
That's it for me.
Okay. Institutional advancement, and Ann, I think this falls to you because I don't believe that Mr. Dan Burke ever did.
Yeah, I can.
Oh, he is there. All right.
I can see you guys, and you look marvelous, by the way.
And I'm sure, Dan, you'd be delighted to give the report had I given you the notes in advance of the meeting, right?
That's fine. That's fine. It's killing me not to be able to say anything, but go ahead.
So I'm passing around a document that has some dates, meeting dates. Yeah.
You're funny.
So I just wanted to share with the group that Institutional Advancement partnered with the Educational Opportunity Program to present the 4th Career Edge program, which is a career development program that's focused on, up to this point in time, solely on supporting educational opportunity program students and preparing for success after graduation. But the exciting thing about this year is that it's the first time we ever did it in New York City. So we wanted to test out the theory of running the program during winter break when our students are all down there. Looking at what they might do during their break to stay engaged. And we just had a phenomenal success with it. 10 alumni coaches that spent a whole day of intense work with students. So that will continue to happen on an alternating basis with the Plattsburgh event. So in 2020, we'll do a Plattsburgh event. In 2021, we'll go back to New York City. It's all donor funded. It's a pretty incredible opportunity. Pam Hewitt, Dave Zebro are the co-sponsors. And basically back in 2012, I guess it was, Pam, Dave, Kyla, and I put the program together, created it. And it's really a wonderful legacy, I think, of Kyla's work, that this program continues to happen and also to grow and evolve and get stronger. There's a list of upcoming events here. The main thing I wanted to draw to the council's attention is the March 4th through March 15th window of time for the presidential search interviews that will take place on campus. Also want to draw your attention to May 3rd, which is building up to be a pretty spectacular day. John Connors, who with his wife Diana helped make the finance trading lab possible, will, we're 99% sure he'll be able to be on campus for a dedication ceremony on that day. We'll also be celebrating the James Augustus Wilson Scholarship Program, and we'll be honoring Dr. Etling and Lisa Lewis out at Valpor. So it'll be a very special day. Thought you'd want all to have that on your calendars. Then the last item, just because it's such an exciting campaign, we've been doing the Game On for Giving campaign for a few years now. This is focused on athletics. And the focus is really all about trying to build donor participation in giving. It's not about dollars, really. It's about the number of people that give. But we're just once again proving that if you have a challenge gift on the deck, it makes all the difference in the world. So Peter Gurney was willing to offer $5,000. And the reason why this campaign is so successful this year is because the athletic team that brings in the largest number of alumni donors, they receive a $2,500 gift to their program. So there's like really something in it for them to win. And so when you just look at some of the comparisons, like I think last year in the first week, we saw 80 gifts come in. We've already received 345 gifts. So the difference here is it's not just IA that's kind of running the program with Mike Howard sending out communications. It's every single coach is now engaged, and they've got all their student athletes engaged. So it's a real great crowdfunding program. And I have to say, the women are leading the way. So women's soccer is out in front with women's hockey right behind them. So go figure. The lady cards are kicking butt. So it'll be over February 14th, Valentine's Day. So that's it.
Very good. Student Affairs, Ms. Garrett.
Okay, well, first of all, I did not get together with Brian on the telephone or otherwise, and so I'm going to go through this, and then Michelle will jump in on the things that I'm screwing up. The first thing that I'm going to ask Michelle to speak a little bit more about, just very quickly, we have started to work with the Better Mind program. That's MYND, and I'm noticing that the students have to pay through their own insurance. Can you explain that just a little bit?
Well, the mental health concerns on the campus, as with probably the rest of the country, have just become exponential. We already have BHSN on campus as a support for our students. We have the regular counseling center staff, and we booked all those appointments. So this is just another service that students can use. It's an online counseling program, but they do have to have insurance in order to use it. So if a student, all students have to have insurance to come here, either the colleges or their own. So if they choose not to use insurance for this program, they have to use one of the services we already have on campus that don't require funding. So.
Okay, all right, and it's implemented already, yeah.
We don't have any, it started this semester, so we don't have any data on how many students are using it or if it's being used, but we will by the end of the semester.
Okay.
And the insurance covers it completely?
Yes.
Okay. Questions? Yes?
You said it's online.
Mhm.
Can you explain that? I'm sorry. I just
It's a virtual counselor. You use FaceTime or Skype or whatever platform is comfortable. They're all licensed mental health counselors, but they're remote. So it's not like sitting in a room with a therapist. You've got your therapist on your screen.
And you don't have to travel to them.
Thank you.
Okay, and the next item was the Career Development Center, and what jumped out at me, it always does, because it's an interest, is what our graduates of the class of 2018, the statistics we have so far on them, and 68% were, I don't know if you saw this on the report, were full-time, 11% are enrolled in some form of higher education. I'm sorry, I wanted to throw out the statistics that those who are full-time employed, the average salary is about $42,000, which I always find interesting, except the teachers that are in Denver, but that's another comment. Anyway, moving along. Other than that, we have 5% that are in the military. I was used to count that as full-time when I did this with high schools. You're kind of employed. You don't have a choice. But anyway, is there any other comment that you'd like to make pertaining to that, to Toby Prim? I'm sorry, she graduated, Toby Hay. She graduated from Beekmantown, so I know her well, so I talked to her a lot about it. The Center for Student Involvement, and the report that came out of there is they are working on socialization and a conference pertaining to transgender identity on campus, so they're keeping up with what's going on with that, which I think is great. Anything else in that area, Michelle, you think we should? Okay. I'm going to skip the housing because you already covered it. It's like when I get to EOP, Anne already covered it.
It's a collaboration.
Yes, it does.
I think you should talk about it too.
Yes, well.
Go.
You can, no, I'm not there yet. The intercollegiate athletic program. I just wanted to highlight, as ever, is the women's hockey team. Wow, as usual. The men are phenomenal. But the women's hockey team, I just cannot believe we're #2 in the nation again.
And why are their games cheaper? That makes no
Because
sense at all.
they're afraid.
Why, what?
The tickets are cheaper to go to.
Sorry.
The tickets to women's hockey are half as much as the tickets to men's hockey.
And still, no one is buying. I go to all the games, at most, there are 400 people. They're the best thing in town.
Oh, it's amazing.
I've got 6 national championship rings. Tom Brady just caught them. I go to all the games, no one else does. It's really sad.
No one else.
Well, not no one else.
Not no one.
You want
400
to-
of them.
I usually
friends.
go
400, yeah.
A couple of their administrators.
Yeah, Dave goes, Josie goes. I go.
I go, I can.
It's a source of,
Oh, yeah, but the women play hockey.
makes me mad.
They don't play.
They're real good students too.
Okay.
Josie, I should say, we didn't cancel the game. Middlebury's coach asked us if we would postpone it. And the alternative was to make him forfeit. So
I'm
we
not
said,
arguing
yeah.
with the decision whatsoever. I'm not arguing. I have no argument. I was gonna bring it up at a 3 o'clock meeting I had about the weather that's coming, that's all. So I was like,
Okay.
oh, so surprise. So I'm glad I know already. I don't have to bring it up at 3.
Should have said
Sure,
that.
thank you for bringing that up about the women's hockey team. That's what's, one of my,
Well,
It's
it makes
amazing.
me
It just
wonder
amazes me
if those
year after year.
diehard people that go to the women's games would pay the $7 instead of the $4, and there's a new revenue stream. Maybe
Yeah,
people don't go
yeah,
because
you're
they
right.
think, oh, that's the bargain basement team. I don't want to go see that.
well.
Oh,
Right.
no, no,
That's
no.
not it. That's not it. They want to see boys fight and bump
Yes,
into each
thank
other.
you. Yes.
That's what they want.
The lack of- the lack of checking.
Is the same way.
Yeah, it's, season tickets, $50. That's one of the best deals in town. Right?
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Great. The men's basketball.
They're not going at one another.
It's like why people like NASCAR. They're wrecks.
God. All right, the men's basketball team this weekend, right? No, they're really doing well
They're
too.
doing really
Yeah,
well.
they're doing well too. So I thought I'd just mention that for anyone who was wanted to hear something little frivolous. No, basketball.
They're ranked
Okay.
20th, they're ranked 20th
Yeah, I
nationally
see it
in
in the-
Division III, and they're going to move up.
And
They have a local following too. I know a lot of people who go.
Well,
Yeah.
they should. First of all, in Division III, there are 430-something schools that have men's basketball. So to be ranked 20th is pretty good.
It's amazing. Yeah.
And an interesting thing about men's basketball is 6 seniors all graduating on time, all with decent GPAs, all ready to be employed.
All right, now let's enjoy here.
And 2 are
And
adding
move straight into the NBA, right?
Oh, I went to the game. It was good.
Okay. Would you like to add anything about the EOP program in New York that Ann didn't cover?
No.
I think you really did a good job. Ann. Okay. The other thing, the second part of the special programs is the Student Accessibility Services Office. And I mean, what can we say? We're getting, so I'm told, a larger number of students with various kinds of disabilities on campus, which is awesome. And you just kind of have to constantly keep up with that. I did that for our high school. And I also had a family member I lived with who was, had to either had multiple sclerosis and had to be in a electric wheelchair all the time or a scooter. All right. And I just want to say this. I can remember not very long ago, I don't want to embarrass anybody in Lake Placid, but they had just finished putting in the new street and all the new accessibility. Well, immediately I politely called them because the bump between the curb cutout and the pavement was about 3 inches, just enough so nobody with any kind of disability could get up, which caused you to go to the driveways, which means you're driving your scooter down the road. Anyway, it's that kind of thing we need to always, always be aware of. It's so crazy for us. We don't understand, but man, it is monumental for somebody with a disability. So I'm glad that we're working on that. Anyway, okay, student conduct. Is there anything you want to highlight on that, Michelle? We have phenomenal students. They're always, always conducting themselves perfectly. So, anything else about the Health and Counseling Center other than what's in the report? All right, and I guess the only thing is the University Police always amaze me here. They're doing the active shooter, or have done the active shooter training, and that's important and it's scary, and I don't like talking about it, but I know it's so real and so has to be done. So we're up with that. And the opinion survey, I don't know if you all saw that. As far as the parking, it sounds so frivolous until you either have someone in your family who's a college student or you are the college student. It's very important, but we were ranked quite high in that, 3rd in the state on a student survey for providing parking that was allowing accessibility to the academic classroom. So anyway, anything else?
No, I would just say we have expanded our clothing shelf, which is housed at the end of EOP. Especially, we've noticed that students don't have mittens, hats, coats. So we've expanded that to cover those kinds of issues. And that the food shelf is draining as fast as we can fill it.
Oh, I did see that. I meant to mention that.
Yeah, so if people have any ideas about ways to continue to stock that, we're happy to accept all donations.
What are we
Would
doing?
the students be aware of the program for hats and gloves and coats?
We've sent
That's
out some
downtown.
email information on it, yeah.
Do we do much with asking the community? And
We have two churches that have adopted us.
Oh, good.
The Unitarians have adopted us. They give us cash. And is it Nazarene next to Burger King? The Nazarene Church has adopted us, and they give us weekly donations. And the interesting thing that happened with the Nazarene Church that we hadn't considered is they gave us donations of equipment, because many of the students don't have pots and pans and spatulas, and we've got the food, but they have no way to cook it. So we now have a few of those things available too, and like can openers and things like that. Yeah.
So I really, I'll talk to Brian and you about that. I think if we really got a little bit more involved with letting the community know that this is a need.
Well,
I
and
think
we
can
do
because-
share with the community place too, because sometimes we get odd donations that we can't really use,
Oh,
like
yeah.
cases of baby food. And, you know, I mean, okay, yeah, but, so we trade off with them too, you know, like if we get things we don't think the students are gonna use, we take that to the main food shelf. And then we are also working to link up with the Albany Food Bank so that we'd be able to get some supplies from there.
The regional food bank.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I was thinking of is lots of times when you go to donate clothing or household goods, there are a lot of the Salvation Army and OLVA, two of them, there are times where they just won't even take it because they have way too much. So we could, I don't know how, but I always have a million ideas and I have no idea how to implement them, but I'll talk to Brian. Thank you. And I think we're done. Questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sal, nominating and awards committee?
No report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Is there a possibility we could pull together you and Sid and Pat and myself when this meeting breaks up, just for a minute?
Sure.
Okay. Okay.
Just go.
All right.
Just go with it, Pat.
roll with it.
President's report, Dr. Etling.
Just following up on what Michelle said about the food flying off the shelves in our food bank, makes me think about something else that is a source of irritation to me. Is every time we have a reception at the house or anywhere else on campus for that matter, there's always a lot of leftover food that we can't do anything with except throw it away. And I guess that's lawyers who tell us that, right? But it's,
There is an interesting app though that some of the colleges are doing now, and it pushes out from, and Holly, I don't know how to make this work, but it pushes out when you're done at a reception, you've got that window when they can't clean up, or they, and it pushes out a thing saying there's food at the Hermes room, and whoever's around can
and then
descend
the locusts
before
descend.
Chartwell's
Yeah.
comes.
Oh, but that's all right.
That's great. I like it.
But I don't know how to make it work, or even if
Just use the
people would agree to it.
SUNY workplace.
The what?
Students aren't on there.
Oh, there's not a student license.
Oh, faculty.
Really?
I don't want
That's so right, Jen. I mean, even.
It's just a huge waste.
Can't we just turn the problem over to computer science kids? Say, we need an app. that
We
does
need someone
this.
to
need an app,
Oh, okay.
Sure.
You can. The problem, though, you know, is when those students then leave, then Holly still has to find somebody.
Somebody has to come up with something.
I've been there,
Because
done that.
it's not Chartwell's being mean, it's Chartwell's
Right.
Following
being
along.
prudent,
Yeah.
yeah.
They can't.
I mean, we can leave it in the house and Lisa and I can eat it till there's mold growing on it, but I can't take it and put it out in a common room in a residence hall, so. Okay.
And then I want to know what kind of food, you know.
Yeah, well,
Is there
you just gotta
dessert?
say.
No.
Everybody, let me, I'd like to introduce Essence Hightower, who's the SA president. This is her first meeting.
Welcome.
She was elected in November and took office on January 1st. And she is a sociology major, a junior, with a grade point average that all of us would have been incredibly proud to have in college. She's from Long Island. And here's an interesting factoid about her, what she did over the winter break. She went into Manhattan and auditioned for The Voice.
Oh.
Well, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to see if I can get her to sing the national anthem.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I have to talk to Dexter.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah. Anyway, she's your SA president now, and they've got a big job. They've got to put together a budget and talk to all the however many clubs and organizations we have now, Michelle. What, 80 something? It's getting up there. And also student involvement in the presidential search and the search for a chief diversity officer. So there's a lot of work for the students to do this semester. Okay. Let me see what else I can say. Oh yeah, on February 27th, and Wendy, you can help me with this. Were you going to say something about this?
No, I was waiting for someone else to say something.
I will. We're having what will be our second teach-in here on the campus. The first one was in October 2017, and what we are doing is we've invited employees, faculty principally, to submit proposals for sessions during the day, and the topic, the overall topic for the thing is the many faces of social justice. And I've been talking to Gary Kroll, who's been helping to organize this along with Wendy and Tracy Guzio, and they've been reasonably pleased with the volume of submitted proposals, right? How many do we have now?
I actually haven't counted. We had 30 and then we got more. Some of those, we're going to be hosting conversations in the hub. So we've got snacks that are going to be in there all day long. And so some people are just hanging out there and talking to people. And so I don't know how many of the people that submitted proposals were just saying, yeah, I want to lead a conversation. But we have at least 30 actual presentations that are happening. The UUP president, Fred Cowell, is going to come and be a luncheon speaker. The union is buying lunch for the members, and then it'll be brown bag for the other people that want to come in to talk about the role of the labor movement in social justice. They're doing 2 special tours at the Rockwell Kent Gallery to talk about his social justice. I don't even know, something about social justice and Rockwell Kent. So there's a lot of stuff happening.
Yeah, there sure is. And I'm very pleased with the way in which the campus community has embraced this. We've encouraged faculty members to allow students in their classes to miss class in order to attend one or more of these presentations during the day on the 27th. It will all culminate at 7 o'clock in Gil's Auditorium, where the Poet Laureate of the United States, Tracy Smith, will be reading from her most recent book and then signing books afterwards in the foyer in Hawkins Hall. So the Poet Laureate of the United States, she's a professor of creative writing at Princeton and the head of their creative writing program. She's an impressive woman, and she'll be here on the 27th. I don't know what to make of this, but I'm just going to put it out there and let you make of it what you will. You know, we had ice on Thursday, and it was kind of slippery. So,
like your lead-in, John.
Wednesday night, a student thought, well, it's not safe. And so in a matter of 2 or 3 hours, late Wednesday, early Thursday morning, they were able to collect 3,500 signatures on a digital petition asking me to cancel classes on Thursday. 3,500 signatures in the middle of the night in a matter of hours. That's
when they're
unbelievable. Well, we didn't cancel classes. We pushed them back. And we have the process, right? Josie's the one that advises me.
Don't tell everybody that. We're
Well,
in conversations.
And but my point is to say, whoa, how quickly they can gin up something like this. And also thought that, well,
Well, they're not sleeping in the middle of the night like the old
no, the
people.
point is, I guess my point is that partly, but also that you can get 3,500 people that quickly to sign something.
I should note that not all of them were students.
No, their mom says, I want my daughter to be safe, that sort of thing.
Well,
But still, that's over 4 times as many people, almost 4 times as many, who voted in the SA elections last November. Boom, like in 3 or 4 hours. And so that raises interesting questions about, how we go about our business here. But I don't have anything more to say about it than that. We did cancel the 8:30 classes, didn't we?
That's dangerous.
It started at 10 o'clock. That same morning, by the way, I drove out on Military Turnpike very slowly, it was slippery, to get to the Altona prison, where I was invited and honored to give, and I mentioned that I did this at Dannemora back in September and again in May. I'm getting on the prison circuit for graduation speeches. And every time I say, why am I doing this? But I get out there and I'm emotionally blindsided at these things. It's just incredibly impressive. There were 12 men, virtually all of them Black and Hispanic, who were getting their high school equivalency degrees. An imam gave the invocation and the benediction. I gave the talk. And an inmate from Albany with these beautiful dreadlocks sang the national anthem solo a cappella as well as I've ever heard it sung. And then the room was full of other inmates who were at various points in the progression through the curriculum to arrive at the same goal. It's amazing. And if you ever get an opportunity to do something like that, take it. It'll tell you an awful lot about your own country. Okay. And lastly, I want to just, because it didn't get much coverage here, there was an article on the front page of the New York Times on February 8th, reporting on the death of a woman who was killed with 3 other Americans in Syria earlier in January. She's a former student. And the flags have been at half-staff for the last couple of weeks because Governor Cuomo ordered them there until her funeral. And let me just read a couple of things. She was here. She graduated from high school in Dutchess County in 2001, came here for 2 years, then left and joined the Navy. Her father was a state trooper. Her uncle was a New York firefighter. They were first responders on 9/11. And this is what the Times had to say about her. Her name when she was a student here was Shannon Smith. She married, and her married name was Shannon Kent. He says, given who she really was, military officials had little choice in how they described Shannon Kent. They said only that she was a, quote, cryptologic technician, which anyone might assume meant that her most breakneck work was behind a desk. In reality, she spent much of her professional life wearing body armor and toting an M4 rifle, a Sig Sauer pistol strapped to her thigh on operations with Navy SEALs and other elite forces until a suicide bombing took her life last month in northeastern Syria. She was in all but name part of the military's top-tier special operations forces. Officially a chief petty officer in the Navy, she actually worked closely with the nation's most secretive intelligence outfit, the National Security Agency, to target leaders of the Islamic State. Yet Chief Kent illustrates an unspoken truth that for many years, women have been doing military jobs as dangerous, secretive, and specialized as anything men do. Only in death can friends and family talk about a life that showed just how far women have quietly advanced into the nucleus of the nation's most elite forces. What else? Chief Kent spoke a half-dozen Arabic dialects and 4 other languages. She was one of the first women to complete the rigorous course required for other troops to accompany Navy SEALs on raids. She could run a 3-hour, 30-minute marathon, do a dozen full-arm hang pull-ups, and march for miles with a 50-pound rucksack. She did this while raising 2 boys, now aged 3 and 18 months. Right. More than 1,000 people attended Chief Kent's memorial service on Friday at the United States Naval Academy Chapel in Annapolis, Maryland, where she was posthumously promoted to Senior Chief Petty Officer and awarded 5 medals and citations. The awards described her special operations work and also said she had been the non-commissioned officer in charge of the NSA's Operations Directorate for 4 years. There is very little coverage, if any. I don't remember seeing it in the Plattsburgh Press Republican. We put some.
I read it. So
There was
that's
one?
where I saw it. Yeah.
Okay, there's a picture of her that accompanies the article in the Times. And that concludes my report.
Her father is now a current staff inspector with the New York State Police, and he was formerly a major head of Governor Pataki's security.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
So she was here as a student for 2 years.
That's it. That's it?
Your turn.
Okay. My turn. I don't have anything specific to add other than something that I meant to bring up when I was talking about the search. In those comments that I've been reading, you'd be pleased to know that fairly consistently I'm reading statements from people who, whether they go into our website or whether they're picking it up in journal or publications that we have that they're accessing or whatever, they're doing their research on Plattsburgh, if you will, and they're commenting on things. They're talking about things like the number of students that come to Plattsburgh, that come to Plattsburgh, EOP students, for example, and they're astounded to read of the EOP success that the students have here. I did not read of a single one that talked about, some success at their institution that was greater than the success at Plattsburgh. In every single instance, they were commenting about how they work hard and yet their statistical success that they're pleased with is not as great as the success that happens here. And they talked about the retention rates that are here, and compared that with problems that they are dealing with at the institutions that they're at, et cetera. So it's, Plattsburgh's got a lot that's very positive that people, when they're looking at Plattsburgh, are responding to, because we may be the smaller, what we'd call a medium-sized college, sitting out here in the, what some might call the North Woods, and yet, things are happening at Plattsburgh, and John, you could be take a measure of satisfaction with the statements, the positive statements that are made regarding, you know, there's more than one that talks about having to follow your 15-year track record. Okay?
This is a good school, and one of the other frustrations, I've given you two already. The third is that we haven't been as successful as I hope we could be, and maybe still can be, at getting the word out about how good we really are. It's like we're a secret.
Well, I think those are some of the things that the new president will be faced with as challenges, is to you know, how do you tell that story, and how do you build upon those successes and tackle issues going forward. Okay. And very happy to have with us our new Student Association president, and would ask if you would like to make any comments.
Sure. So the Student Association, we had our first executive meeting and Senate meeting last week, and that went well. I am the person who, like, you know, calls to order and stuff for the exec meeting, so it's really interesting because you kind of follow the same format, so it's very fun. But this was really like I don't know, this is very inside of, you know, what's going on, so I feel like this is really useful. And there was like a lot of stuff I wanted to say, but I just want to sit back with my other right now. So y'all probably gonna get emails from me, but yeah. So I'll be around and obviously coming to these meetings. And in regards, I guess, to just my campaign, if none of you know me, my campaign surrounds just culture and just bringing back the idea of diversity and inclusion into the campus, because we are a diverse campus, but we just kind of struggle with the inclusive part. So like you said, I think this is really cool, which is why I decided to run for this position. Just so we can show some people that it is really good. So, but that's all. So, thank you. Do I say end of report? No.
You're all set.
All right.
Okay. And campus governors.
I think I'm it.
Whoa.
So I will tell you the things I know. Okay, in terms of my role as presiding officer of the faculty, we'll start there. Well, you know, I don't do very much. I'm ceremonial in many ways, but there will be in the next few weeks a couple all faculty votes that are busy work more than anything else. They are things that have to happen because of our bylaws. We have to appoint a bylaws officer, and we have to ratify a policy that has come out of the University Faculty Senate. And I'm hoping that I will get 2 or 3 faculty to participate in these votes. And so it's something that I get to do in my position, but has really little relevance for the everyday running of the college. What's more important, I think, to the everyday running of the college is this semester especially, I've been trying to take a cue from Dave and say that academic affairs needs to focus on academics and get the focus of the faculty to thinking about the curriculum and thinking about what is the education that we are giving rather than worrying about, can we afford to give our students this education? Let's just look at the parameters that we have and do the best we can in terms of educating. Especially, there are changes coming in general education. I know that's kind of a dirty word, and it's going to be fine. It's going to be okay. At the state level, I'm on a working group regarding the SUNY-wide gen ed, and they have been looking at what's happening all over the state and how SUNY requirements need to adapt to middle states requirements. And so they are very slowly putting through some changes to the SUNY policy, which have to go through lots of steps. But as we are shaping this recommendation of a potential change to the policy, it is all about making things looser and more flexible rather than saying, well, now the campuses have to do this and jump through these hoops. And so really trying hard to give the faculty at the individual campuses the scope to make individual choices about the curriculum, which I hope then at the campus level, we are able to do something exciting and fresh regarding general education that will make the undergraduate experience at Plattsburgh a special thing instead of something that is very similar to what lots of other campuses do. So that's kind of what I see happening curriculum-wise, and a part of that is getting our faculty excited about it's not just about cutting corners and following rules, but we can actually do something exciting in this education. The other thing that I'm working on at a bunch of different levels is how to make classrooms more inclusive for students from all over, all the different kinds of things our students can be, to make them all welcome in our classrooms. And specifically what I'm working on and what my little presentation at the teach-in is about is trying to create a toolkit for faculty, because so many faculty say, well, I don't teach about people, I teach about computers, therefore I don't have to worry about inclusivity in the classroom. And so being able to give them some specific things to examine, what pronouns are you using, or what, who do you call on regularly, or whatever it is. I don't even know what's on this checklist yet, but trying to do some research and talk with people so that there is just tools we can hand to faculty and say, here, think about these things, rather than making everybody do the depth of research. So that's what I'm working on and kind of the groups that I'm working on. I can also talk a little bit about what Gary might say. He broke his arm in a fall on the ice on Thursday.
Oh.
So
Our only casualty.
I heard
We had somebody break their elbow from athletics.
Yeah.
Falling on the ice.
So two casualties. You let those old people out on the ice. And it's dangerous.
He was talking on his cell phone.
That's not an excuse.
But that's an explanation.
For falling?
For not being able to travel the parking lot safely. But I wasn't here. I stayed home, so I can't speak to what happened. I made my choice. I did. I had no classes. It was easier for me. In any event, I thought he might talk a little bit about what the Faculty Senate is working on. And so the things that are relevant here, they're dealing with a lot of things that aren't particularly relevant. There's a resolution going through the various faculty senates regarding faculty support for the adoption of OER resources. And that's something that is a little bit fraught because of the money, in an unrelated situation, the money that is available for faculty that use OER resources and commit to using OER is open education resources. It's free resources for education, to do it simply. And there is one push for a resolution to say that faculty support this. And then there are faculty who say, well, we don't want to support this because it might have ramifications for the people who do the publishing, that they aren't getting paid in the same way that people that publish traditionally are being paid. Or perhaps if you're producing OER resources, you're not getting the same kind of scholarship credit that you would if you produced a traditional textbook. So the faculty have some professional concerns with supporting a resolution in favor of OER resources, which I know is redundant to say OER. So that resolution is under consideration at the Senate right now, and the senators are consulting with their constituencies to come back and determine if they're going to pass this resolution or not. And it really is just a resolution in support. There's no money, there's nothing connected, but it is a philosophical thing for the faculty whether or not they're going to support it. Other things that are happening as statewide with the Senate, they're coming back to transfer paths. This is something that SUNY is doing, and then the faculty governance talk about it. The transfer paths are important in terms of keeping the curricula aligned. There are a few that are problematic, but not many. For the most part, these revisitings of the transfer paths are mostly to say, is it still working? Yes, it's still working, and then moving on from it. But I'm glad they're not abandoning the transfer paths or just saying, oh, they'll be fine. You know, they're staying on top of it and making sure that they are still functional, which is really good. There is, as you probably know, a movement at the state level to provide the same kind of scholarship support for DACA students as there are for our resident students, which is a good thing. The Faculty Senate generally supports. There are concerns that the DACA students will end up getting more financial support than the domestic students or than the other domestic students. And that's, again, it just makes people talk and they'll come to some kind of a compromise. Out of SUNY Fredonia is a resolution that's again going around the Senate's that they're calling a New Deal for SUNY, that really is just calling on the government to rethink the way that SUNY is funded and to re-examine the entire funding structure for the system. I have not read the resolution closely. I just have heard them say the New Deal for SUNY, but I'm not sure exactly what the New Deal is that they're proposing. And finally is simply the teach-in. We're doing this teach-in, and I keep hearing about people that are like, oh, I can't do it because I have classes. And I tell them, no, you're supposed to cancel your classes. Weren't you listening? But frankly, if everybody on campus comes, we won't have room. So I'm hoping for a turnout in the 800 to 1,000 people range, and I will be delighted if I get that.
That's great.
So that concludes my report and Gary's report.
Okay. And Mr. Marshall is not here, and neither is Mrs. Beckman. So, do we have any old business to be brought before the body?
I just got an email from Dan Burke. He was asking, was a student code of conduct policy sent to the council members? And if so, he was asking if they were supposed to do anything with it. Nope, I didn't see that.
Okay. Is there any new business to be brought before the council? Okay. Then we'll entertain a motion.
I so moved.
That we adjourn. Karen? Second on that? Okay, Heidi? Okay. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Okay. Gary. Our next council meeting is the 15th of April. Okay, at 1 p.m.
Tax day.
Pick that day, Pat.
Pat will be here.
I was going to say, Pat's not going to be here.